All right. We're live. Double check and confirm quick. Good to go. All right. So we should have a few more hopping on as we get started here today, but we will dive right into things. So today I have a very, very special guest with me here today, client and good friend, Brian McCartin, who we started working together, what, man, like 6 months ago?
Yeah. It's been about 5.5, 6 months now, I think.
Yeah. 6 months time. Brian's gone from scratch, literally zero, no audience, to his first 10K month in just a few months time. And he's now gone on to cross over 40K in less than 6 months time. So Brian's been able to achieve some epic growth in a very short period of time. And I wanted to bring him in here today because I wanted to share a little bit about his story and how he was able to make this happen. The steps that we kind of took together to help bring this to life. And also for you guys just kind of see his thought process and the way that he looks at things and the ability to grow his business as fast as he has in such a short period of time. So at this time, I'd like to pass the floor to Brian to introduce himself a little bit and share more in his background in going from a dentist to a full-time coach and affiliate marketer.
Sweet. So thanks, Blake, for having me. I really appreciate this. This is really cool. As far as myself, kind of the way I got started, I am a dentist. I still do dentistry full time. And how this all began is I was really dissatisfied with the whole 8 to 5 situation. So I got into dentistry just because I thought it was going to be freedom from the stress of the 8 to 5 and would give me more time, freedom with my family. But the reality is it turned into just another stressful 8 to 5. Wish I would have known that before I spent a ton of money on school and all that stuff. But it is what it is. So I was depressed, just kind of not happy with the way things were going. Didn't really have any passion for anything in my life at that time. And I remember I used to just come home and scroll through social media mindlessly each day until it was time to go to bed, and then do it all over again. And one day I happened upon a post that was talking about someone who made $2,000 in their sleep. And that really was intriguing to me because I was already mentally kind of thinking, like, is there any way out of this? And so I clicked on the post. It took me to a popular 15-day challenge. And I ended up saying, screw it, I'm going to do this. And so I did the 15-day challenge. And the rest is history. I went through that, and then it just kind of compounded from there.
That's awesome, man. I should have clarified too early on. It's Dr. Brian McCartin. So for those of you calling his name here in the comments, doctor it is. But yeah, man, to kind of recap too, like, how long were you actually in dentistry before making that decision to go online, or kind of like looking into the option of pursuing an online business?
It's been 5 years exactly in November. So like when I started in July of this last year, and so now I've been a dentist for 5 years, coming up on 6.
When you first kind of made that move after 5 years of going through all that schooling and being successful in dentistry now, what was kind of like, if you don't mind asking, your wife or family's like first reaction when you started to explore this option of building an online business?
To this day, my wife still doesn't understand what affiliate marketing is, and she just likes to see the money coming in. So I try to keep it short and sweet. My family thinks it's a pyramid scheme, and so I don't really talk to them about it anymore. And my Facebook prior to all this was pretty inactive. I wasn't really doing much on social media, so I just decided, you know what, I'm going to delete all my friends, family, and dental school colleagues from my friend list, and they didn't miss me anyways because I hadn't posted anything in 2 years. So I just decided to make my Facebook strictly for business. So they don't really know that much, and I'm sure they'll be very surprised when someday I decide to leave dentistry for good and do this full time.
Which is coming up very soon.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Awesome, man. Yeah. Like, even with you too, like, and you starting not long ago and like beginning with that challenge and the growth you made in such a short period of time, it's honestly very similar to like that first, like me 2 years back and going to 100K. Like, you're on literally the same exact path, I feel like, in terms of growth you've been able to accomplish in these last 6 months, minus the years of struggle that I had before. I think you've really been able to shortcut and achieve some insane things without having that struggle path before that itself. So for you, like, as you made the kind of that first investment into that challenge and started to get your feet wet more in the online space, what made you attracted into like investing in yourself? I see you being highly prioritizing speed itself.
Absolutely. So for me, it's always been about not reinventing the wheel. So in dental school, I always had a mentor. Prior to that, in my career where I was in rental cars, I had a mentor. I've always had one, and so for me, it was like I've been in school for my whole life. So for me, it was like I need training, I need education, and I need guidance. And it was a real simple decision to invest. And I also have a little shiny object syndrome. So buying things, I like to buy things. So that was easy transition as well to be able to say, you know what, I need to do these things. But that's what made it easy. And yes, speed is key for me, just because honestly, to me, this whole thing is a non-negotiable. And I realized that success loves speed, and you got to be able to move fast and be in front, especially with marketing. You don't want to be the guy that comes up with something second. You want to be the one that does it first to get all that attention.
Yeah, and the quicker you can surround yourself with those people that have been where you want to be, the quicker you're going to get there itself. I think it's kind of interesting too, like with you going to school to become a doctor in dentistry, like I feel like you got to have a pretty strong mindset to be able to just kind of put your head down and know that, hey, I got to show up for the next X amount of time and I'll eventually get to this goal, but I got to show up consistently to make that happen. Do you feel like that had a pretty big impact on your transition into the online space mindset wise?
Yes, for sure. I know myself pretty well, and I have one of these obsessive personalities where it's like when I set my mind to something, I go full force into it 1000%. And so that's kind of how I was with dental school. I remember I had to teach myself a lot of the classes to be able to get into dental school a couple of years earlier than I should have, just because I was so determined to do it. So I would spend my free time learning stuff in my free time all night long studying, because it's like, I'm going to do this. And that was the same thing with online marketing. It's like, I actually took a week off work and went through the SA training program at that time. And it was just like, I have to do this. I'm just relentlessly go at it. It drives my family crazy sometimes because I get so narrow focused on stuff, but it allows me to.
Yeah. I know the same feeling too.
That.
Yeah, man. Like honestly, like this is one for those of you guys watching. Like if you could take one lesson away from Brian, there's one thing I know. Like, but the growth that he's been able to accomplish these last 6 months, I know truly I can virtually sit back here and guarantee that he will cross 100K in these next 6 months because of the fact that he's ultra committed. Like anything that I share with him in terms of ideas for his business or action items, dude wastes no time to take action, and that's the reason he is where he is today.
Sweet.
And kind of pause here too as well. It looks like we have 8 on. So those of you joining and watching right now, thanks for hopping on. Drop a hashtag live below and let us know if you're on here. We'll stick around and answer some questions here as we wrap up at the end as well. So, and now it's kind of talking through the backstory and you going from being a doctor to segueing into this online business. Talk a little bit about kind of like where you were at when you and I started to work together and kind of what attracted you to explore the idea to work with me and my team.
So at that time, I had already had a mentor. I had gone through a couple courses, and I was feeling like where I was really lacking was conversations. I was struggling with having conversations in Messenger, on the phone. I didn't have the confidence to do well with that. And as a result, I wasn't making consistent sales. So what really attracted me to you, Blake, was that it was clear with your conversation process and just seeing some of my colleagues, the direction they went, signing up and working with you, how much that changed their game. And again, like I'm one to be like, okay, this is a missing piece of the puzzle. How do I solve it? And then doing it and not hesitating, even if it meant I had to put money on my credit card, because I was like, this has to happen in order for me to level up. And so that's what really helped me decide. And so now, I mean, I have several mentors. I've been through 6 courses, but each one of those has allowed me to level up and get past a block that I had mentally, where I couldn't figure out how that success was happening. And I saw your success and your students' success, and I was like, I have to figure out what's happening behind the scenes here.
Super, super key in what you said there, and lesson for everyone as a whole. Like, you had ultra awareness around where you're at in your journey, I feel like, and you've done this since getting started. Like, you see the missing pieces of your business, you fill the void, and you go and take action on those things itself. I think a lot of times many people miss out on that. They maybe feel like there's a void missing, or they're not sure on what that void is, and they try to either keep doing what they're doing in hopes that it will change, or eventually make that decision down the line. But I think your awareness along with your action taking ability is like, it's a powerful combination.
Yeah, I think self-awareness and humility is important. And I'm not saying, like, to me, to say I'm humble sounds kind of ego to say that, but I am very much aware of my flaws, and I know where I need to work. I'm constantly asking people, what can I do better? Am I a good husband? Am I a good father? Like, what am I doing that could be different? And then changing it.
Super powerful, man. I remember too, like, even on that humility topic, like, first couple of weeks, it was literally in the first week of us working together, you came to me. I think you had booked a call using the conversation framework you're talking about right away. And you really wanted to make a couple of sales to close out the week. Trying to recall, feel free to fill in kind of like, you messaged me something beforehand, and I sent you an audio after that. And then I'm pretty sure like a couple hours later, you jumped on that call and closed the sale.
Yeah, it was a huge mindset block that I was facing, as far as confidence going into the call, and just not sure like how to provide value, like how to approach it, because I had no luck with calls prior. I think at the time I had 9 sales calls that all just were a mess and falling apart and turning into nothing. The prospect took control of the conversation. It was a disaster. And no sales. So I was trying to force myself to sell in Messenger, and then I was just getting ghosted. So I was like, I have to learn how to have a successful call. And I remember being really nervous, and it was kind of affecting my mindset. And I said, I have to reach out to Blake. So I did. You sent me some audio that was really, really hit home with me, as far as like, approaching it with just a pure sense of providing help to that individual and forgetting about the sale, detaching from the sale, which is easier said than done, but truly realizing that it was a success just to get to the call, no matter what happened on the call. And that really resonated for me. And I just went in like with this whole que sera, whatever will be attitude. And I just had a conversation with the guy, and we weren't even talking about sales. And I remember he already had gone to my link. We were in the middle of a conversation about Kung Fu. He'd gone to my link, and then out of the blue, he goes, which of these 3 options do I choose? I'm on the page. I want to buy. Which one do I choose? And I was so shocked. I was like, wait, you're already on the sales page? Like I hadn't even transitioned to offer yet. We were just having such a great conversation. And I was showing him all these ideas, what he could do with his business, and just brainstorming. And he was sold. And I didn't even have to sell anything. It was just really cool. And from there, like, my confidence came back, and I realized the formula was just being friendly and helpful on the call and forgetting about the sales part of it.
100%. I think that's like, for anybody out here that's working to integrate calls right now within their strategy, like early on, it's so common for people to feel blocked going into that first call because they want the sale so bad. And it's anybody early on, they want to make sales happen. They want to build some momentum in their business, and they want to bring money in. And I think oftentimes we get so focused and obsessed with just that result that we end up repelling it by saying things we normally wouldn't say, being a little bit pushier than normal, or going into the call nervous because we really are wanting that outcome to happen. And honestly, like in that audio I sent to Brian, aside from sharing a call framework that we share inside our coaching program, it was really mainly just focused about aligning the focus going into the call, and disconnecting from that itself so he could show up and be him. And that in turn led to that sale.
Yes. Like, if I had one thing to say, I'd say the thing about you, Blake, that I've discovered this whole time is you always know what to say. Like, no matter what problem I reach out with, and I always have problems, and I always have questions. No matter which one I reach out to say, you always have the answer that solves the problem. And so that's what has made this all worth it, is because and why I've upgraded all the way to the top echelon with you is because it's like I need this in my life. Some of my other mentors, they provide other things, and they still also have that ability, which is why I'm working with them as well. But with Blake, I feel like with mindset, especially, and then any sort of conversational tactics or anything like that, it's so easy to just reach out and you always have the answer. And that's what's really, really cool, is that I know I can count on you as a mentor.
Appreciate that, man. And that's like we said in the beginning, like it's a two-way street. The reason I give what I give to Brian is because he gives the same return with the action. And that's, to me, the power behind a strong client-coach relationship where you guys are both on the same page and you know that person's going to show up and take action on what you share. And it's things are powerful when that's in place itself, to say the least. So kind of segueing on from that point, man, after we got started, after you land that initial sale and started to get the call framework down and started to implement the conversation framework, talk a little bit about the results you're able to generate from that point, like the growth that you've made since starting to here you are now.
Yeah. So within that frame of time, like shortly after joining, I was able to hit my first 10K online in just a matter of like 2 weeks. I already, prior to our meeting, I had a few $1,000s worth of sales. And then after joining, learning the things that were in the program and then just talking to you and getting on the calls, it changed my game. And I quickly built up several sales. I remember one thing that you had said to do. I'm not going to reveal it on the call, but it was an amazing way to get some quick initial sales that was recommended early on in the course. And I remember you sent me the guide and everything on how to do it effectively, and I implemented it. And boom, within like a matter of 2 weeks, I had 3 huge high ticket sales. Then you showed me how to leverage those sales, and it just multiplied from there. So in a short amount of time, it's been using those strategies and then continuing to grow with you. I've now like hit, I think I'm at $46,000 so far in sales and in like commissions. And so that's really cool. And it's just totally giving me the confidence to keep going.
That's awesome, man. Really appreciate you sharing all that. And like, it's to see you go from like not only success as affiliate marketing, still continued success, making high ticket affiliate sales, and now moving into your own coaching offer and own coaching program. Now, even bringing pieces to your team and growing your team too. Like, it's crazy to see how much things can come together and how much growth can happen when you know that path in front of you and when you know like what pieces need to come into place based off where you're at itself. And even like the call conversation we're talking about. For those of you taking calls, I had a coaching session last night with my inner circle group, and we were talking about, which Brian is in, we're talking about call structure itself and how early on, to me, it's very important for everyone here, if you're below 10K a month, to get active on calls and to sell on calls. But I think oftentimes we either don't want to do it because it takes time to speak to people on calls, and we don't want to do that in the long haul itself. And I think it's important to remember that the goal with calls early on is not to do that forever and ever and ever and always have a schedule full of calls. Brian will soon enough get to the point where he's not taking sales calls anymore, and he's able to get out of that process and focus more on his clients and serving his clients at an even higher level than what he is. So I think for those watching, keep in mind of those things within your business right now and look into your vision going forward and what like the ideal business looks like to you, because wherever you're at now, that's a starting point. And what we want to do is put you in a position to get to that end result to where you have a business that you actually enjoy being a part in, you love showing up in, and you get a lot of fulfillment out of it.
Yeah, for sure.
So aside from results, I guess to kind of wrap up this interview, we're going to take some time to do some questions here at the end, because I'm sure many of you guys have questions here for Brian that are watching. For those that are watching right now and those in the replay, if you haven't yet heard, we have about 10 days left until the price of our flagship coaching program, 6FA, goes up by $1,500. So at this time, with Brian starting out being a member of that, you can kind of see a testament towards the impact that that program can have in a very short period of time. And I encourage those of you in this group that have considered joining the program or open to exploring the idea of joining the program, now is the very best time to do it, because you're going to save $1,500, and you're also going to be plugging into the updates that we're making for when the price increases itself. So for those that want the details on 6FA, comment 6FA below. And Brian, one last question here. What would you say to those that are considering joining 6FA itself? or work.
Getting before the price increase, because it's probably the best thing I've done online, or one of the best things I've done online for sure. It's been instrumental to my success and still is to this day. In fact, after this interview, you and I have our one-on-one call, which is going to be extremely valuable, I know, as always. And so I would say, like, if you're thinking about it, get in. Like I said, Blake, you always have the answers. You know what to say. You've just been there, and you're not too far off, and in like the multi-million-dollar range where like you're inaccessible, as well as to a point where you're like, you forget what it's like to be at this early level. You're right there with it, and you remember all those things, and you always seem to have made the mistakes that we're facing right now. So it becomes really easy to for you to provide the solution to get around it. And again, not reinventing the wheel. I would encourage you, like, stop trying to do this on your own. Face your fear. Like, I put this on a credit card. I'll be honest. Like, it was worth it to me. I knew I had to do it, and since then, I've paid everything off. All my investments have been paid, and so it was well worth it. And I love everything about it.
Appreciate that, man. Doctor stamp of approval for those watching. So again, those considering or wanting to explore the idea, let me know in the comments below, or feel free to reach out directly on that. At this time, we got about 8 minutes left until we have to jump for a one-to-one session. So I'm not cutting Brian's time short on that. So anybody that has questions for myself or Brian here to close out today's live, feel free to drop them in the comments below. We'll hang out here for a little bit. So who's watching as well, give Brian some love for joining us here today and sharing his story with us. Joe and Daisy, thanks for hopping on. Good to see you guys on. Jacob, good to see you on, man. Ethan, what's going on? Replay will be there for you, man.
I wanted to add too, while people are chiming in, but the biggest thing I would say with the calls is just, you have to face that fear of looking like a fool. It took me 9 times to finally figure out the formula with Blake's help, and you just have to be willing to fall and get back up. I think that's the big thing, is being relentless and not falling victim to failure. That's, again, what you've helped me so much with, is the mindset stuff. Because wanting to give up or feeling discouraged or feeling down, every single time you've been able to get me out of that funk.
Amen to that, man. Honestly, that applies to everything in business for those listening. Like live video, same way. And anything that you're doing, putting out your first post, like it's gonna feel uncomfortable at first. And I think the biggest thing that stops us from taking those first initial steps towards doing it is just the fear itself. We're worried about the outcome that will happen. We're worried about saying the wrong thing. But at the end of the day, the worst that we can be told is no. And the only way that we can get to a point of confidence is by going out and doing what we need to do and putting in the reps to do it. So I think that's a golden nugget and golden point here for those listening.
You have nothing to lose. The worst thing that happens is they say no, and that's it. And maybe you feel like but you learned something. It was a success. So it was all worth it.
That's the key. Every call is a growing experience. Honestly, you become better and better after each one. Daisy just came in with the question, Brian, how do you keep focused when having different mentors at the same time?
Yeah. So the way I focus is, each one of my mentors provides a different component of my business. So some are like really great at the big picture and the offers. Some are really great at conversations and tactics and mindset. And then some are really great maybe at sales conversations and messenger, and just maybe the team aspects of things. Every one of them provides something. But for me, what it is it's more time during the week to get recentered, because every time I get on one of those calls or join one of those lives or whatnot, I get refocused, recentered. And I look forward to that. It's like my favorite time of the week are those inner circle calls or those one-on-one calls, because I always have questions going in, and I always know I'm going to come out of there feeling better than I did when I was initially going in, because I struggle with mindset every day. Still to this day, it's a battle. And so having those times to be able to talk directly with individuals that are doing better than I am and have been there, man, it's like prescription medication. It solves
That's
the problem.
honestly, that was a really good question and a really good answer. Coming from someone like my same year in Brian, when I went and hit my first 100K year, I put 60K into my business. I think I had usually at most times 2 to 3 mentors at once. But like Brian said in the very beginning, all focused on different kind of specialties. I had one performance and mindset coach, one coach that was focused on all different areas based on the awareness that I had in my journey and what I needed most of that time. I think above anything else, like Brian mentioned, like putting yourself in a room with people that have been where you once been, or been where you are now and have gone to where you want to go, the more people you can surround yourself with in that realm, the better off you'll be.
Yeah, and we've all become friends, and that's what's really, really awesome about it. Is I feel like closer to individuals online that I've never met in person than I do to my colleagues at work, and to a lot of my friends that I see on a regular basis. I share things here online that I would never share to them. So it's just a connection that you make with those individuals, that it's like meeting a friend for a drink and saying, "Hey, how you been, man?" Like, and it's always a good time.
100%. I think you also mentioned a good point too, just in like showing up to the calls. One thing that I always know with Brian is he's going to come prepared with questions for the call itself. And oftentimes some people that join coaching programs don't do that. Whether you're a part of 3 mentorship programs or 1, the more that you can come prepared to each of those calls with questions based on the action that you're taking, the more you're going to be able to progress and move in your journey with much greater speed. Brian's a great example of someone that does that. Awesome, guys. All right. Well, at this time, with that question covered, we will close out on this note. Again, those that joined us today, if you enjoyed the message that we shared kind of with Brian himself and his story and the success that he's been able to accomplish, drop a hashtag value below. And again, those interested in finding more about 6FA before the price goes up, DM me directly with the word 6FA or drop a comment below and we can chat from there and see if it's a fit. So thanks again for joining, Brian. We will see you here in 2 minutes for our coaching call, but I appreciate you taking the time, man.
Awesome. No, it's been great. And thank you so much for everything. I can't thank you enough. It's changed my life for sure.
Proud of you, man. We're only getting started. Future is very bright.
See
100K Club up next. Keep an eye out for it, guys. I am guaranteeing
it. You always know what to say, like every time. It's amazing.
All right, guys. We will close out on that note. Appreciate you all and hope you all have a great weekend.